Young people with disabilities are among the poorest and most marginalized of the world's youth and live up to issues that affect them, such as access to education, employment, healthcare, and social services. All these issues affect youth within a far more complex manner. Discrimination and attitude linked to disability make it even more difficult for them to go to school, to find work, and even participate in local activities. Now, this morning, I'm joined by Simon Kauluma, who is the National Coordinator for Youth with Disabilities. Good morning, sir, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. I'm glad I could be here.
All right.
Yes.
So what is this organization all about? What exactly is your mandate?
Okay, so the National Organization for Youth with Disabilities, it's short from NIOD, is basically a non-governmental organization. It was set up by the National Youth Council in the year 2013. So the mandate basically is just to advocate for young people with disabilities in all spheres of society, in participation to an example for employment, access to healthcare, access to basic services, basically. Yes.
So who are some of the stakeholders that your organization then engages with for this advocacy?
Basically, the National Youth Council, which was very,
The National Youth Council?
Yes, the National Youth Council was very, okay, the word is gone,
Yeah.
but basically they were crucial to setting us up. So they are one of the people we engage a lot with. We have had sittings with Madam Agnes Shangararo, Honorable Minister of Youth. We have lots of dealings with the UN, especially UNDP. They come in and then they assist in teaching about the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities. Yes.
Now, it is no doubt that people with disability, or rather in this case the youth,
Yes.
are faced with so much stigma.
Yes.
How does the organization, your organization, deal with this?
Okay, so basically we are trying to get away with the old notion of how a young person with disabilities is viewed as. So we're trying to show that we aren't just people who basically just sit down and wait for people to do things for them. So we are trying to put the image of a young person with a disability who is a contributor to society, somebody who, with the right assistance, can contribute to society as a whole. Yes.
So what are some of the challenges that youth with disabilities face, especially the youth in the school environment that is in primary school, secondary school, and even up to higher institutions?
Accessibility, you know, getting around, access to study materials. You know, we have made strides in providing, to some extent, yes. For example, there's special schools in the country that assist, but then sometimes, for example, places like universities where textbooks are for sale and copyrighted, it becomes a challenge. If I had to give you an example, there's a system called Braille, where if somebody with visual impairment has to use that system to read. So when you have to translate a textbook from Braille to, from print to Braille, they use usually issues with copyright. So, and accessing the right format for somebody like that. And also, yeah, sign language interpretation. Basically there are many challenges. Most of them are around accessibility and basically just having the right necessary tools for a young person with a disability to access the education.
Okay. In that case, how does your organization then assist people that are challenged in this manner?
Okay, for right now, the organization is quite really young. We, like most youth organizations, we go around sourcing for funds for projects. So basically, we go around sourcing donations. We go around seeing if young people, for example, in the informal areas are okay. Sometimes all we can do is be positive to some extent. So yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
These donations that you go out sourcing for,
Yes.
what are they for?
Just for bettering the life, like you mentioned it, that young people with disabilities around the world are some of the poorest people. So yeah, so this is just to assist and to basically just show that somebody does care and we can do something to make life better.
So this would be perhaps to maybe donate a wheelchair, or or exactly what is the money used for?
Okay, we haven't bought wheelchairs yet. Or, okay, but we have.
No, but just an idea.
Okay,
of,
fine.
yes.
Let me give you an example. Food parcels. You know, during the COVID pandemic, it was hard to access food.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very, very difficult. So we sourced out that with the assistance of the National Disability Council, and we distributed the food parcels to the people who we thought were the most needy. Yes.
Now, the organization, as you say, is relatively still very young.
Yes.
Obviously, it faces a lot of challenges. But if you could,
Yes.
what measures do you think should be put in place to combat these challenges?
Okay, funding, yes, for projects that will have our constituents more involved, basically. So it gets tiring when you keep on saying, no, we have to do something. And for example, employment seems to be one of the biggest problems.
Yeah.
So yeah, we would like to set up projects for young people with disabilities so they can sustain themselves. Yeah.
Now, does the organization deal with specific disabilities, or it doesn't have any limits?
Okay, no, so basically we don't have any limits. As long as you're a young person and you can be identified using the social model by the state that you have a disability, then you are welcome with NIOD.
All right.
Yes.
Now, before we let you go this morning, do you have any final remarks?
Basically, nobody asks for a disability.
Yeah.
Right, so we have to do our best in assisting, you know, whether it is government, the private sector, or just the layman person on the street, but just being positive, because imagine having something you didn't ask for and then you're persecuted for it. You know, it's a very terrible thing. Another thing is, I mentioned this before, that we do have young people with disabilities who have acquired the qualifications. But however, like most young people, they had trouble finding a job. So yes, I look forward to seeing a Namibia where young people with disabilities are regarded as contributors to society. Yeah.
Now, just lastly, for someone who would like to get in contact with your organization,
Yes.
how do they get in contact with you?
Okay, so we have an office in Okuriangava. It's called the Disability Resource Center. We are still setting up a website. And yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Well, that was Simon Kauluma, who is the National Coordinator for National Youth with Disabilities. We will continue